Going into the NBA offseason, it seems very likely that Giannis is going to be traded from the Bucks. They're in cap hell. Damian Lillard is going to be out probably for the entirety of next season. Combine that with Giannis's desire to compete for championships, and it seems like this is a perfect mutual parting of ways. Now, the question is, what teams can trade for Giannis? Immediately crossing off almost every single Eastern Conference team, looking in to the rivalries of the Bucks, obviously in division, teams like the Pacers, Cavs, the Pistons. The Bucks are not going to be trading with those teams. And then combine that with teams like the Celtics, potentially the Knicks, the Magic. Those are championship contending teams over the next few years in the Eastern Conference, and the Bucks do not want Giannis to be winning rings in their conference. So looking at the Western Conference, teams that we can eliminate, not enough trade assets. First off, I'm looking at the Lakers, the Grizzlies, the Warriors, the Clippers, even the Spurs. Now, a lot of people think that the Spurs are one of the teams that could trade for Giannis, but I don't see the trade assets there. Yes, I see the draft picks, but the young star potential. Stephon Castle was the rookie of the year, but I don't think he's all-star potential right now. So thinking that the Bucks would trade Giannis for kind of not a bag of chips, but young players who don't have that quote-unquote all-star potential and then some draft picks, that is not going to be the haul. The haul to me is at least 2 or 3 young core players that have all-star potential. Now, thinking about like the caliber, somebody like Jonathan Kuminga, who teams have valued as a young budding star, that does not cut it, in my opinion, for this trade. You got to at least trade Jalen Green, a fringe all-star caliber player in year 3 or 4, but still has a ton of room to grow. Jalen Green has got to learn how to shoot the ball, and if he can, he'll be one of the best point guards in the league. So, with that being said, that is the line. So, teams that are just simply not good enough in the Western Conference are also going to be eliminated. So I'm thinking about teams like the Utah Jazz, the Sacramento Kings, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Phoenix Suns, the Dallas Mavericks. And then not compatible, meaning the cap does not line up for these teams. They're already in cap hell. There's no way that they can trade for Giannis. I'm looking at the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. So there are a select amount of teams here. The main ones that I'm going to be looking at today, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets. With the Thunder, I mean draft picks galore. You don't even really need the young stars. I mean, you could just take half of the Thunder's draft picks, and that would be more than enough compensation for a player like Giannis. But looking at the actual Thunder team, they're a championship contender that I'm sure Giannis would like to play with. They have Lou Dort, Aaron Wiggins, Jalen Williams, Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, tons of young budding star potential that if they were on another team, they would be showcasing those abilities. Now, with a player like Jalen Williams, we've seen that. But I think, and not to mention Chet Holmgren, who has been an absolute defensive stopper for the Thunder when he's healthy. So, with that being said, you take any of these young guys, you put them on different teams, and I think they perform well above the marks that they're performing at right now because they're playing in the Thunder system of limited minutes and big depth. So, I think the Thunder have more than enough assets. They meet the criteria of a serious championship contender. I'm sure Giannis would like to go there. Next up, a bigger market, the Houston Rockets. This, once again, regardless of their first round exit, is a championship contender. They were the number 2 seed in the West. They have tons of young assets that I think the Bucks would be extremely enticed to go and get, like Amin Thompson, Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., and then they have a plethora of draft picks. Once again, this is a bigger market team, and that's something that Giannis could be looking at to get his name, image, and likeness, to give a nod to college football there, to get his name, image, and likeness a little bit more out there in nationally televised games. Automatically, this would be the number 1 team in the West with some kind of pairing of Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet, Alperen Sengun, Jalen Green, Amin Thompson, some variation of those 5, and then Giannis with Ime Udoka as the head coach. I would absolutely love to watch that Rockets team go. They would be an unstoppable force on the defensive end. Now, some underdog teams. I highlighted in a TikTok earlier this week that the Atlanta Hawks were an underdog team. They're not a championship contender, so maybe the Bucks would consider trading with that Eastern Conference team. I do think that they have a lot of young assets like Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels. They have a plethora of draft picks. A new GM is coming into town. Trae Young seems to be the staple for this franchise. I don't think he's going anywhere despite all the trade rumors in the past few years. So that could definitely be an underdog team to look at. Another team that, look, regardless of what you say, this team has been making moves in the last 3 or 4 seasons, and that's the New York Knicks. They traded for OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, not to mention they also signed Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson. They have made move after move after move. Leon Rose has been cooking up there in New York. Do not count the Knicks out. If they could figure out some kind of trade that keeps their core in Jalen Brunson and probably Karl Anthony Towns and gets Giannis, oh my goodness, what an absolute unit of a team. That might be one of the best teams of all time. All time. I would be amazed to see the Knicks trade for Giannis. I'm not counting that team out. When looking at other teams like the Celtics, I don't think that they have the assets or pieces to trade. You can't trade Jason Tatum. You cannot trade Jaylen Brown. Those contracts are way too big. Yes, you're coming back with Giannis, but I don't think that that pairs well. The Celtics have moved into the analytics of basketball. They're all about shooting threes, keeping pace, and dominating teams in the regular season, and then trying to use that same formula in the playoffs. And Giannis does not match up well with that. I don't think they would make a move like that, but I could be wrong. I also don't think the Milwaukee Bucks want to trade with the franchise that already has 18 championships. So, with that being said, those 4 teams, the Hawks, the Knicks, the Rockets, and the Thunder, are the 4 serious contenders to trade for Giannis if he ends up wanting to leave. I think he will, but let me know if you have another team in mind in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.